Hello everyone and welcome to today's lesson. Today we are going to cover a little bit more material than last time, and for this reason the lesson is going to be divided in two parts. In part 1 you are going to review your knowledge on the minor scale, the intervals within a minor scale, and your more general knowledge of how intervals are built. Then in the second part, you are going to learn about the harmonic series and about the concepts of the consonance and the dissonance. Let's go ahead and get started with part 1. In this course, you will hear me use the term tonal music quite a lot. What I mean by tonal music is music that has some kind of tonal center, music that is built around a center of a particular tone. In the context of Western music, that tonal music from around 1650 to around 1900 can also be called major-minor music, because it is built on the system of major scales and minor scales. In the last lesson, you have learned about a major scale, and you have learned what its pattern of whole steps and half steps is. In this lesson, you are going to learn what a minor scale is and what the pattern of whole steps and half steps is in a minor scale. Let's start this time on A. A is going to be our first degree of the scale. From A, we are going to go step by step to B, C, D, E, F, G, and we're going to reach an A one octave higher. This is our minor scale. It starts on A and finishes on A, so we're going to call it an A minor scale. Let's pay attention to the pattern of whole steps and half steps in that scale. It's a whole step from A to B, a half step from B to C, then from C to D, a whole step, from D to E, another whole step, then from E to F, a half step, from F to G, a whole step, from G to A, a whole step. So the pattern in a minor scale is whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. Notice that A minor scale is built on the exact same notes that a C major scale is built, but it just starts 3 notes lower. Now let's see what intervals can be found within the A minor scale. Let's start on the first degree of our scale as always. From A, we can go to the second degree of the scale, and that is our interval of a second. From A to C, an interval of a third. From A to D, the interval of a fourth. From A to E, we have a fifth. From A to F, we have a sixth. From A to G, we have a seventh. And finally, from A to A, we have an eighth. Let's pay attention first to the perfect intervals. Just as in major scales, in this minor scale, the perfect intervals are the fourth, the fifth, and the octave. A to D, A to E, and A to A. Now let's pay attention to minor intervals, the third, the sixth, and the seventh. These are minor intervals. From A to C, a minor third. from A to F, a minor sixth, and from A to G, a minor seventh. Now pay attention to the very first interval, the interval of a second. Bear in mind that no matter whether you are in a major scale or in a minor scale, the very first interval of any scale is always a major second. Now that you know what a major scale is and what a minor scale is and what intervals in those scales are, you might be asking yourself, how do I exactly know that C and D is a major third and A and C is a minor third? Well, in order to recognize whether an interval is major or minor and what its size is, you need to know two things. The first is the numerical size of the interval, and the second thing is the quality of the interval. Let's take a look at an example. We have two notes, C and E. What is their numerical size? Well, the numerical size of an interval is the number of letter names that the two notes span. This is very important. I'm going to repeat it. The numerical size of an interval is the number of letter names that the interval spans. From C to E, we have three letter names, C, D, and E. Therefore, I know that this interval must be a third. Also, I know that it is a major third, so I know its quality. Its quality is a major third because C and E belong to the C major scale, not a C minor scale, but a C major scale. But if I decide to lower the second note of that interval, if I decide to put a flat in front of that E and lower that E by 1/2 step, then that interval is still a third, but it is no longer a major third. It is a minor third. Minor interval is always a 1/2 step smaller than a major interval. Let's take a look at another example. For example, C and A. The numerical size of this interval is, well, let's count together. C, D, E, F, G, and A. So that interval must be a sixth. Is it a major sixth or is it a minor sixth? Well, I know that in a C major scale, there is definitely C and A. So this interval must be a major interval. If I decide to lower the second note 1/2 step, that is, if I decide to put a sign of a flat in front of A, then that interval would become a 1/2 step smaller interval. And then that interval would still be a sixth, but no longer a major sixth. It would be a minor sixth. Remember that in order to recognize whether an interval is major or minor, you can always count your 1/2 steps. So you can go back in your head or in your notes to the chromatic scale and see how many 1/2 steps there are in a particular interval that you are looking at. And remember that a major interval is always going to have 1/2 step more. Now, let's take a look at the case of the second, of the major second and minor second. That case is a little bit tricky because you cannot ask yourself whether this interval belongs to a major or a minor scale, because both major and minor scales always start with a major second. The easiest is to just look at an example. If you have C and D, that is a major second. Think of it as a major second is as big as a whole step. C to D is a whole step, and it is also a major second. Now, if I lower the D and put a sign of a flat in front of the D, then I no longer have a whole step, I have a half step, and that is my minor second. So a major second is as big as a whole step, and a minor second is as big as a half step. But remember that in order to call an interval a second, whether major or minor, the numerical size of that interval has to be 2. So the notes have to span 2 letter names. What do I mean? Take a look at this. If you have C and D, well, there are 2 letter names, so the numerical size of that interval is going to be 2. It's going to be a second. But if I have C and C sharp, the C sharp theoretically sounds the same as D flat, at least on the piano. But this interval cannot be called a minor second. Why? Because the numerical size of that interval is not 2. C and D flat has 2 letter names, C and D, but C and C sharp has just 1 letter name, C.